Hey YouTube, today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on the other Neo Nectar deck that I updated, this one being Arboros. So this is a really old, probably long forgotten deck now. The only people that would remember this deck are the people who played during the Limit Break format, back when Maelstrom came out and this card came out. So back then the meta was basically Dote and I can't really think, MLB was a thing. And Spectral Duke Dragon, although I think Spectral Duke Dragon was already kind of like on the way out. But anyway, Arboros Dragon it's kind of an important deck because it is the one that actually the Asha playstyle originated from, and as well as a lot of the Neo Nectar Stride units like Jingle Flower originated their skill based off of Arboros' playstyle, which basically is the idea where you gain, your rearguards and Vanguard gain effects or have a benefit where they gain power if they have a card with the same name on the field. So basically having clones on the field. So Arboros Dragon was the first deck that actually started that trend for Neo Nectar because Musketeers, besides Arboros, there was Musketeers and then there was Maiden or Trailing Rose mixed with Arboros, or Maiden or Trailing Rose mixed with Cecilia back then, but Arboros now can actually stand on its own as a unique deck. It got support in the latest set. They've got a Stride unit and a couple other stuff. So we'll get into it right here. So for those who are not familiar with what it does, it kind of has a Limit Break effect that's like a weaker version of Asha's GB2 skill, which is during your turn, if you have a unit with the same name as this unit, it's V or R, so it gives, the Limit Break effect gives all your Vanguard and Rearguards the ability of, when a unit with the same name as this unit is on your VRR, it gets 3,000 power, or this unit gets 3,000 power. So if you have two of these, they both get 3,000 power. If you have two of any other card, both of them get 3,000 power. So the next grade 3. Oh, and it's also worth mentioning, this is the Neo Nectar Ride Chain. So it is a 10k Vanguard, so it's kind of annoying because your Stride unit will only be 25k, but you know, it is what it is. It's not really that big of a deal. And the deck, as expected, it has ways of fixing the Ride Chain consistency with the newer cards. So the other grade 3 that they got is Arboros Compost Dragon, or Compost Dragon. So this one, you don't really want this to be the Vanguard. It has Vanguard or Rearguard effect, and it's not Limit Break or anything or GB restricted. Basically, when its attack hits a Vanguard, and you have Arboros Vanguard, you can Counterblast 2, and draw a card for each of your rearguards with the same name as this unit. So if you've got two of these on the field, whether one's the Vanguard and one's a rearguard, or two as rearguards, then you can draw like a card for each name. Each rearguards with the same name as this unit. So, and then there's a lot of ways of manipulating the names. That's kind of like the new thing that they gave Neo Nectar. So that's the grade 3 lineup. It's pretty straightforward. Grade 2 for Arboros Dragon Timber. This is the grade 2 for the Ride Chain for Arboros. What the Arboros Ride Chain does, it's kind of like Spectral Duke's Ride Chain. When you ride to the next and you have the previous grades in the soul, you can choose a Neo Nectar, search your deck for up to one card of the same name, and clone it. So basically, it does what Asha's On Stride skill does. So yeah, I mean, the only difference is that it's only rearguard, whereas I think this can search as the unit. No, it searches rearguard, so it's kind of the same skill. So it's pretty good at setting up. So Arboros, what I found is that it does mesh really well with a lot of the newer Stride units compared to, say, Musketeers, which have kind of fallen behind. And it's kind of sad that they didn't give Musketeers some new cards, but whatever. I mean, Arboros is interesting. Hasn't seen play in like a long time. Next we have for Warden of Arboros, Airi. So I like this card a lot. This is actually one of the key new cards they got that makes the deck really good. Essentially what it does, it's their power gainer. So it's their 11k grade 2 basically. And it has a really good effect of when its attack hits. You may choose a card from the drop zone, put it on the bottom of the deck, and then you can look at 5, search for one with Arboros, reveal to the opponent, and add it to your hand. So it's a good draw card, potentially, sort of. only fetches Arboros cards, but it itself has Arboros in the name. So it's pretty decent card, actually. I think it's one of the main key cards that helps the deck actually function in the current meta. Next, for the other grade 2 spot, this one I left open. You can put, you know, Maiden of Gladiolus or something in here. I ran with Iris Knight, so 10k vanilla, the original one. Mainly because in playtesting, I found like the deck kind of like it is already counterblast heavy, because this card skill, and if this card ever goes off, it's counterblast 2, which is really expensive in this meta in terms of like cost payments. So I kind of left Iris Knight. Iris Knight is pretty good backup. It's hard to get rid of this card if the opponent doesn't have a booster behind their 9k, so they can't really easily remove this card unless you're up against somebody like Kagero or somebody, you know, things like that. So it's pretty decent. I like it in here. It's surprising how relevant these cards can still be in early games, and even like in later on when the opponent has a hard time getting rid of stuff. They hate having to attack into that, where it's easy for you to block with a 10 or something. For grade 1s, I am trying one Bulwark of Arboros, Sanelma. So they got a new quintet wall that's specific to Arboros. One thing I don't like is that it uses Counterblast 1. Jewel Knight's got a new quintet wall that doesn't use Counterblast. It requires a Jewel Knight Vanguard. This requires an Arboros Vanguard. I really don't know why they have a Counterblast cost when it's that specific. But this one's actually quite good, especially since you have cards like this, which tend to return stuff back to the deck. And it can return triggers back to the deck. It's anything from the drop zone. So that's really nice. It can kind of stack the deck and cycle. The only reason I'm only running one is, first of all, it's not Legion-based deck. This thing will, yes, it will return cards, but it's kind of slow. And I really want to be able to nullify really high-powered Vanguard attacks when I have to. So for that reason, I'm running 3 Maiden of Blossom Rain. This is the original Perfect Guard. As well as 4 Arboros Dragon Branch. This is the grade 1 for the ride chain. Then on top of that, I'm running 4 of the Screen of Arboros Aila. So this has Arboros in the name. And it's the other new card, just like Airi. And the reason why you run 4 of it is to fix the ride consistency. To make sure that you don't have to get stuck with a 10k Vanguard. You can try to help ensure that you have the grade 2 in the soul, so that you'll be able to use this as an 11k base. So the only time it's 10 is when you stride. And then the last grade 1 spot is the Limit Break Enabler. So Snowdrop, Musketeer, Pilkko. Originally I was running the 8k vanilla, but then I realized Corolla Dragons aren't really needed in here. I don't have any 8k grade 2, so I don't need to form 16. So Pilkko is a natural fit, especially since I'm not running Stride fodder. They're all in my Asha deck. And on top of that, you can pretty much build really good columns if you went first, and if you get one of these in hand, you can call this down. You can like clone stuff early with the ride chain, or even without the ride chain, and you can pressure the opponent really fast, because Arboros Limit Break skill, when it's live, is pretty good as early as possible. So I really was considering running a third one of these, dropping this to 3, but I really wanted the ride consistency. Plus I'll be striding still, so it's not like low breaks are that important right now. So that's the main deck. For the trigger lineup, 4 of the new Maiden of Zephyranthus. So it's basically the Flame of Victory, Maiden of. So I have 8 of these, so 4 in my Maiden of, the 4 in this one. Then 4 of Chestnut Bullet, I believe this is the original critical trigger. And then 4 Tsukundan. So basically 12 critical for Arboros, because it really doesn't need stands. And like I said, you can rush the opponent down with a Limit Break skill. And they try not to block you if you went first, because they don't really, no one seems to really fear twin drives anymore unless they're being attacked by something that has guard restriction. So, you know, 12 critical, the way to go. It'll get them by surprise. You win the match pretty quick. And then it also is really good with high power columns too. Early. So, and then we got 4 heals, of course. The first heal, the original heal, and then of course the ride chain starter. So that's the main deck. I went with 12 critical. It works really good. Won a lot of matches with this deck already. People really underestimate this deck. So for the stride deck, I'm running 2 Arboros Dragon, Ein Sofar. This card, it looks pretty cool. It makes me think of Final Fantasy 14. I don't know why. But yeah, it looks really cool. Basically what it does, it has a main phase skill. If you have Arboros in the heart, which obviously we will because all the grade 3s are Arboros, you can Soul Blast 1, and then it gives this card gets the effect of when this unit attacks, choose one of your rear guards, search your deck for up to 1. So basically you clone something, and then it has a GB2 skill where all of your units in the front row with Arboros in the name get 5,000, and everything in here except for Iris Knight, I believe. The grade, yeah, everything except Iris Knight has Arboros in the name. So, yeah, it's pretty good. On top of that, I am running the Jingle Flower Dragon. He works really good in here. Jingle Flower, when I first saw this card, it reminded me of Arboros. I kept thinking it was like Arboros became a stride unit. So, he's in here for the big number push. Next, we've got 4 of the Dream Spinning Ranunculus Asha. This is a good backup to this guy. Like if you have Iris Knights in your front row, then you may want to use this instead over that. But you know, both of them kind of do the same thing in this deck. Essentially, as long as you have GB2. If you want to first stride this, there's really no reason to first stride this in this deck. There's no GB1 or GB2 anything in the deck. So typically, like this would be first stride. It won't have the 5k, then you can second stride into Jingle Flower or the second one and gain the power bonus, and then later on if you need to replenish field, clone some more stuff, you can go into Asha and get the call effect. But if you really need to replenish your field, if you're against someone who's very retire heavy, for instance like Dark Irregulars now are kind of annoying. They have a lot of retire power. The new stride that they got on the Scarlet Vampire stuff. So Verano can kind of help in that situation, so that's why I'm running her. And then 1 Primavera for the same reason. Although the thing I don't like about Primavera is she is Counterblast 3, and you have to discard a card, in addition to the Counterblast 3, of course. And then I already have stuff that's sort of already returns stuff periodically to the drop zone, so having to return 5 units, 5 normals is kind of you know, hard to do compared to Verano's effect. But because I'm running 3 Verano, it's kind of hard to run. Like, you can't really flip up the other Verano, so you kind of have to go into Verano and then flip up the Verano and only get the 1, and later on call Verano and then flip up like this or something and then get the 2. So it's kind of slow. I don't really go into neither of these 2 cards that often compared to the other 3 up here, but they're available there. And then I'm running 2 Verna. She's pretty decent in here from playtesting the deck. And then 2 Rain Breath Dragon. If you want to run Desmal, take out 1 Verna, because sometimes in Arboros, well, it depends. I tend to prefer the Rain Breath because it's easier, especially if you want to guard like really early, so you can get the GB1, even though GB1 doesn't really mean anything here. But it's up to you. I just stuck with these. So anyway, guys, that's the Arboros deck. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this deck, how it compares to Bloom, Asha builds, or Musketeers, and even Maiden of. How would you rank all the different Nectar decks that are out there? And looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.